Welcome to the Found Her podcast. I'm Kelsey.
And I'm Shannon.
And we are the filmmaker, photographer, and co-founders of Found Her Productions. Together, we capture the essence of women so they can communicate their truth with confidence and ease.
Through working with our clients, we've learned that each of their stories are so unique and, to our surprise, mostly nonlinear. We believe these stories deserve to be heard to inspire women along their own journey to finding themselves and creating the life that they truly desire.
This podcast is where badass, trailblazing boss ladies will expose the ups, the downs, and everything else involved in creating their own path in work and in life.
So sit back, get comfy, and get ready to be inspired. There's something going on.
We don't know what.
Yeah.
Don't know what we're doing. Just kidding, we do.
We still don't after 14 episodes, or 13 episodes.
Something we've learned. Nothing. And that's the end of the episode. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Glad we got set up for that.
Yeah,
the video and
really
everything.
Important.
Yeah,
officially announced we learned 0 things.
Oh my gosh.
And one thing I learned is not to touch this.
Yeah, I know, it's very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Another good thing to take note of is that we're no longer using an aluminum tabletop. Do you remember that with all those like little pops and bounces or whatever?
You
like
just lift up your water glass and be like boom boom.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh shit.
Oh shit. Sorry for that disruption.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coffee cheers.
Coffee cheers. Don't spill. That is a lot of Baileys.
Baileys forward.
Yeah.
Not mad about it.
No, not at all. All right, well, welcome, Shannon.
Welcome, Kelsey.
Welcome, everyone else.
Welcome back to another episode of the Found Her podcast.
Yeah. It is a Friday morning. We're 1 week away from our holidays.
Oh, yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
And we've put in what we've decided is a first season of our podcast.
Congrats to us.
Congrats to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. When we first started it, I'm not going to lie, I had like a little bit of like mixed beliefs around what would happen with it, because it seemed like something in the past that I would have started and probably like abandoned, like had all these like big thoughts or like good, like big ideas and like, sure, yeah, I'll get that done. And but I feel like had I not had your partnership on this, I probably would have like been like,
Just dropped it.
Yeah. Just focused on.
Well, is there anything outside of my partnership that kept you in it?
Well, I at first, honestly, it was really uncomfortable to do. I felt like a huge imposter. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I've never done it before. I also didn't spend a lot of time researching it. I've definitely kind of approached it with a go with the flow mentality,
mm-hmm.
and I've kind of enjoyed that process. It's been a little bit clumsy at times for me, anyways. Like when some of our episodes were released, I was like, I don't know if I even want to listen to myself or listen to it, because I was really self-conscious about how I might sound or how I would come across in the episodes. But actually, that was one of the biggest takeaways I got from the experience was doing it anyways, listening to the episodes anyways.
Good for you.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm not going to listen to it, how could I expect anyone else to listen to it,
yeah.
right? So I felt like I had to push through that. And I had an interesting experience that I didn't really expect. And that was that I would go from feeling like kind of like cringy or uncomfortable listening to myself to actually feeling like comforted and like admiring myself. And
oh my gosh,
yeah, like I think
I've
let it be a journey of deepening my self-love, and it hasn't always been comfortable, but when is it ever? So when it comes to
yes, that's
comes to that
point.
So
oh my gosh, I love that. I love the way you described that, that you were comforted by it.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's kind of a funny story, but I was in the hospital and I was lying down. I wasn't allowed to move for 3 hours, and that's a kind of a side story. But I was like, what am I going to do for 3 hours lying still? And so I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a good time to like really get into the Found Her podcast and like listen very closely. And in that moment, I was very comforted because I wasn't in the best, I was kind of in pain and a little uncomfortable, but I just listening to that and seeing like how far we've come and how much we've improved with it too. Yeah. Without beating ourselves up or like being drill sergeants about it, or, like we just kind of organically let it evolve. And, we did. And that's something that I really appreciate about it, because if it had been like this stressful experience creating these episodes, it would have been really counterproductive or exactly counterproductive is I guess the word I'm trying to use, but and that would really defeat the purpose for me, and that was for sure how I would go. That's when I would definitely abandon it. But I think because we let ourselves come at it with such a like low pressure energy, I don't know. Yeah. A low pressure energy. I think that's one of the reasons that I've been able to
kind of grow into it.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
That's so interesting. Yeah. We definitely, just kind of went with the flow on it. We weren't, on a strict schedule or anything like that. It was very low key, which I think was a really good way. Yeah. To feel it out. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think? What do you feel like you learned? What's a big takeaway for you? Well, the one thing that was a big takeaway for me was it's actually really hard to interview people. Which the people do that professionally. So it's kind of like, duh, like it's not easy. Like people specialize in doing that. And some people get paid a lot of money to do that. Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's really good at it. It's definitely a skill or a gift that you can. Yeah. But I think going into it thinking like, oh, we're going to interview our clients. Like we already have a rapport with them. We kind of know their story and we're just going to like talk to them. I think like I assumed that it would just be really easy, and it was in a lot of ways. But there's also there's a bit of a science to interviewing. Having questions ready to ask, questions that feel relevant to listeners, pulling questions designed to pull certain information that's relevant to the listeners, that have a good flow in the conversation. It's a little different than just having a conversation. Yeah. And our interviews were always very conversational, and I love that. We did really go with the flow with most of them. But yeah, I think once the mics are on, once it's recording officially, it's kind of it's hard not to kind of get in your head and remember that you are just having a conversation. But there's some awareness that needs to happen in terms of how you're kind of setting up your guests. Yeah, some intentionality. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think I underestimated how that would be. Yeah, when you got into it, you were like, oh, actually, I can see why having some intention would benefit. Yeah, walking into the episode with some intention would be really beneficial to just have maybe a little bit more of a key message or a takeaway for the people who are listening to take from it. Yeah. Yeah, because it is a long form discussion, but you don't want to you want to keep people engaged and listening at the same time. Definitely. And so, yeah, you want to ask the right questions, basically. So that was, I think, a big takeaway for me. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that too. Now that you mention it, I think I'm kind of reviewing our leading up to the episodes each time, and I think now that I think about it, there was a more intentionality each time, and it's funny because we brought more intentionality into it, but I'm not even sure how intentional we were about bringing that intentionality into it. I know. It definitely got easier. Yeah. In the first few episodes, we would be really prepared, and we would plan. And I think for some of them, we even were you're going to ask this question and I'm going to ask this question, and really set up for it. But I think what we learned was that actually kind of
took away from our just natural abilities to ask the right questions.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think when we were doing it that way, I was less focused on what our client was saying and more like, am I going to remember to ask this question on time or at the in the right spot of the conversation? I was a little distracted.
Or I don't want to interrupt Kelsey or something like that.
Totally. Yeah. All sorts of things would come up.
Yeah.
In that sense. Yeah. And
oh my gosh.
It's just by going through it that you learn these things. And there's a sweet spot like of being somewhat prepared, but not over prepared to the point where you can't focus on the actual, like you can't be present in the conversation because you're distracted by like your lines.
Your lines. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And I think we might have learned about ourselves as like partners that we each have our own personal comforts in terms of like these sorts of things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And different ways of going about things that feel good. And I think there are some differences, which is totally normal.
I mean, it's normal, yeah.
Yeah, but for us to, I mean, we tried different things. We tried different things. And I think towards the end, like with the last few guests, it felt particularly comfortable to me. Like it felt like we kind of found a bit of a groove.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. And yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes from here too, because like every time we do one of these episodes, we learn so much, take away a lot. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Actually kind of going back and reviewing all of the guests we had and like the conversations and all the gold that came up. I realized that all the titles of the episodes, which are like, you know, I would title them based on like, I would re-listen while I was editing it and pull like a line that I was like, ooh, that's a good line and feels relatable to like the general topic we talked about, even though a lot of topics would come up. But the titles for each episode, I feel like have become kind of like mantras for me. Like I think about them a lot. Like one that comes to mind is the title of Carrie Fisher's episode, Let It Be Easy. She said that. That's a quote from her in the episode. And I use that all the time now. Yeah. And if I'm using it to someone that knows Carrie, I will credit her for it. If they don't know Carrie, it sounds like I'm crediting the actress Carrie Fisher, but which is unfair to our Carrie Fisher, we'll call her. Ours. She's ours. Love you, Carrie. But yeah, that's like that one, or another one that really stood out to me was Kara Mcintosh's Embracing Discomfort. I use that all the time.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that episode. And just the whole idea and concept that we talked about, and like how actually life would be kind of boring without the discomforts, or like it wouldn't have that same level of excitement when you're thriving, because you don't have the contrast to compare it to.
Oh my gosh, I know. And like discomfort, you know, kind of debunking the fact that that's like a bad thing, and acknowledging that like, ooh, discomfort. Okay, what's going to happen when I work through this? Yeah,
I mean, that's a very similar experience I had, as I mentioned a minute ago, about this whole whole podcast thing. Is like, it was really uncomfortable for me, but in the beginning, but it's gotten a lot more comfortable, and I actually love using it as a way of like I'll rewatch or re-listen and like learn so much about myself.
Oh my gosh.
In the process. And it's so worthwhile, because I'm going at it from a place of not wanting to like beat myself up, of course, like, but wanting to appreciate and find reasons to be more confident, I guess. I'm kind of like looking for evidence, you know, and I'm like, and if you're, I feel like anytime you look for any evidence in any field, it comes to you, you find it. So
totally. Yeah.
Going into the reviewing part with that mindset, I think, was really helpful. But
yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think we've actually talked about this before on the podcast, but there's something really like endearing towards yourself when you go back and see yourself, or listen to yourself, or look at past work, and see like how far you've come since then, and how much you've learned and how much you've evolved. Like, and kind of looking at your past self and being like, oh, little baby.
I know, adorable little baby.
Look at you.
Shane, entrepreneur.
You tried this really uncomfortable thing, and maybe you weren't awesome at it right away, but you fucking kept doing it.
Yeah.
Like, and here you are.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think I'm really grateful that you and I are both in a position where we can see it that way.
Yes.
I wasn't always. So I think it's just a little bit of evidence of evolution, and it's kind of really exciting to
I know
to really recognize that.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And I think this actually, this kind of relates to the work we do with our clients too. Like, it can be really uncomfortable to be in front of a camera. And especially on video when you're talking to a camera.
Oh my gosh. What's that thing? Like, what is the deal with everybody hating the sound of their own voice when it's like coming through? I don't know. Like, I definitely have experienced that, and luckily through this podcast experience I've gotten over it.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of like the sound of my own voice now. But isn't it interesting how people like all seem to have that when they hear their voice on a recording or something? They're like, oh, is that what I sound like?
I know. You know what I think it is because the way you hear your voice in your own head, because you're hearing it through your ears that are and inside your skull, it sounds different than it does to other people. Like, so when you aren't used to hearing your voice like inside your own skull, it sounds different, and it can be kind of like jarring. It can be like, that's what I sound like. So it's not necessarily that you sound bad, it's just that you sound different than you expected. So, which is why the more you listen to your own voice in like a recording, you start to think like, oh, I actually do like my voice. Yeah. Because you're getting comfortable with what it actually sounds like to other people.
Oh my gosh.
And I think there's a lot of value in that. Like, actually, that's another takeaway I've gotten from this is having to listen to my own voice so damn much and getting to a point where I don't mind it. I feel like I also understand how I sound to other people, and I think it has informed a little bit like how I speak in just a regular conversation out in the world. I'm like, oh, I like when I sound like this. I don't like it when I sound like that. And I'm like aware of that. I'm like, oh, when I speak a little slower or crisper, it sounds better. And so I'm like aware of that and doing that in conversations. Yeah. And that's a result of listening to my own voice.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Interesting. It's like speech, like an exercise in speech almost.
Yeah. If there's any speech coaches or whatever that help actors.
There must be, yeah.
That like work with actors or whatever, they're probably like, if they're listening to this.
Yeah. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Such an interesting experience that we all go through as humans. Oh yeah. I mean, if you do have the microphone, if you're willing to step up to the microphone.
Yeah, step up to the mic.
Step up to the mic. It's scary, honestly. Like,
it is.
I could see why some people would just avoid it altogether. Yeah, and I wouldn't blame them for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But it's just like one of those things. The more you do it, the easier it feels and the more comfortable it feels.
Yeah. Maybe we can get back to, or like talk about why it was important for us to do this. Like why
to do the podcast,
to do the podcast and to like go through all this discomfort to get to a point. Like it was worth it to us for something, right? For some reason. And I feel like that might be worth talking about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the intention behind the podcast was like really just a genuine. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to quote Rina. Yeah. Rina Ruperellia.
Yes. Perfect. I know what you're going to say.
Yes. In our interview with Rina. So for anyone that doesn't know Rina, she is a psoriasis, like a self-proclaimed, psoriasis warrior. So she lives with psoriasis, and she started like an Instagram account all around like embracing it and empowering herself through it, and gained this like massive following on Instagram. Like, I don't know where she's at now, but when we interviewed her, she was over 11K or something like that. So I think that's like considered influencer status. Okay. I believe. I don't know if there's like
I should know more about these things, but I don't.
Influencer status. Yeah. But something she said on her episode was that people ask her all the time, like, how did you get your following up to that number? And her response is like, I didn't even go into it wanting or in like intending for that. It all came from like a genuine act of service. Yeah. And just showing up really authentically. And I think we should play a little soundbite from Rita's episode.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
So everyone can hear it from her own voice.
Yes, let's hear it.
I just listen to the calling of my heart for that. And that is a genuine act of service, that page. And at the same time, I've been able to meet so many people from it. I felt less alone. I've healed myself. I've gotten beautiful opportunities such as this, through just sharing authentically. So sometimes I'll get messages and people say, well, how did you grow your following? I say, I didn't. It didn't, and it's been a long time. I've consistently been sharing for many years. But it's not about how many people are there. Like, it's, again, how can I be of service? How can I express myself? Like, how can I use this as a place that I express my creativity? So I did an interview series, and that really, really got, like, it tapped into something in me because I wanted to do that. And I thought, well, why don't I just do it here? Like, I don't have an attachment to it. Like, why don't I try? And it ended up being such a wonderful way to express myself. And then also let somebody else share their story. So making space for somebody else.
Yeah. So much like Rina was talking about in that sound clip, this podcast for us has been basically what her Instagram account has been for her in some ways, where it's just it's a genuine act of service. It meant something to us to get past the discomforts of the learning curve and hearing our own voices, so that we could have this platform where we would be able to have long form discussions with our clients and share their stories, and in doing so, hopefully inspire other women who are listening to take the leap or go after that thing that they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it all came inspired from like conversations we were having in the early days with our clients when we were, getting to know them, pre-shooting with them, like getting to know them, really understanding them. And we'd always have these like really amazing conversations with them. And we thought there needs to be a way that we can share their stories in this much detail, or like give them the platform to share their story in this much detail, because they're all so inspiring. And so that's how the podcast concept for us was born. So it literally is like genuine.
Yeah. It's so funny thinking back to those initial consultations where I'm not sure if our clients even like realize their stories are obviously so close to them and they don't necessarily realize like maybe we have a little bit less life experience and work experience than they do. So when they were talking about their journeys, we're just like, I want to take notes. Like, I want to like bring this into my own journey. Like a lot of the stuff that they were talking about doing. And a lot of it had to do with not like necessarily the how-to or the step-by-step process, but like the way that they would think about things in order to like overcome mental obstacles or mental barriers, or like get themselves out of their own way.
Yeah. It's super inspiring to hear them talk about their stories. I love that. Like, we get feedback after we interview them that's like, oh, that was such a nice like experience. I really like enjoyed having a conversation just about my story, because again, they don't necessarily always have the option to do that, or the opportunity to do that. And then we even get like feedback. We had one guest say she signed on 2 new clients from people that listened to her podcast episode.
Oh my gosh. And that goes back to what Rina was talking about showing up super authentically. And Sarah Levine is the person you're talking about, attracting some new clients with the episode. And I think she was an incredible example of someone who, showed up and was incredibly vulnerable and completely authentic.
Oh yeah.
And, the fact that she was able to connect with some new clients that way just really like didn't necessarily blow my mind. Like I shouldn't be surprised about that, but I was just so thrilled to hear that. Yeah,
well, it's just like, like a lovely thing to hear, because when you're just kind of doing something kind of from your heart, and then these like extra results come from it, it's like, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh my gosh. Do you guys want to hear a little sound clip of Sarah's episode of the podcast to get a sample of how authentic and vulnerable she was?
That when you deny that little part of yourself that is aching for something, that, there's this great saying that I love, which is, when we bury our feelings, we bury them alive. And when we bury our desires, we bury them alive too.
Yeah.
And and they poke out the side doors, and they'll come out in like toxic relationships, abusing alcohol and drugs and food and and I have been down all those roads. And until I addressed all of those things, then I could safely actually let that part of myself that was like screaming at that point to get out. It wasn't safe before. So I had to create a hospitable environment to have that come to the surface.
So powerful.
Oh my God. I love that sound clip because we're both like,
Oh yeah. We're like
like
nodding
so good.
Amen the entire time. Yeah.
Like I feel like I get goosebumps when I hear that.
Me too.
It's so powerful.
Me too.
The idea of burying your feelings and desires alive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty amazing. And I really commend her for being so aware of the importance of being yourself this early on in her her coaching career. I know she has been a coaching student for a while now. But the fact that she just has this strong understanding right from the get-go, I can really see working not only in her favor, but working in favor of the people who need to work with her, because she's going to be attracting them so organically.
Totally.
Yeah, it's going to be easy for them to find each other.
Let it be easy.
Yeah. Oh. Are we segueing into another sound?
We didn't stage these. I swear to God. No. But why don't we recap?
Yeah, let's do
recap.
Let's do a quick recap because
that's really fun.
Yeah,
to go back and look at all the amazing guests that we had.
Definitely. Should we start from episode 1 or start from the first or the episode where we had our first guest?
Oh yeah, episode 1, 2, 3 was just us, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
it's kind of nice to just kind of chat with each other.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, the first 3 episodes, we did one kind of intro. We did one all about Shannon.
Yeah, that was an interesting. I don't know how you felt about the episode where I interviewed you, but with the one where you interviewed me, I felt like not only was I learning about the experience of being on a podcast at that point, but I was also learning a lot about myself and like the meaningful peaks and valleys of my story that I hadn't really taken too much time to get into or consider before, but it gave me a really good opportunity to consider those things. And I think there's some value there for me in terms of my personal development. Yeah. That's
amazing. I love that. Yeah. It's like I said, I just said, the feedback we get from our clients saying like, oh, that was such a great experience to like share my story like that. I felt like that too, actually. Yeah. It's rare, like unless you're someone that's just like interviewed all the time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not like you don't have the option very often to sit down and have someone just be like, tell me all about you and
in depth.
What did like your past and the obstacles you've faced and how you've overcome them and how all of that informs like how you are sitting here right now in this moment. I thought that was kind of interesting. And it's interesting too, like when someone's like asking you about your past and about your story, you tap into like unexpected things.
Oh my gosh, definitely. And you kind of like make meaning of things retroactively as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what, at the time I interpreted it this way, but now that I'm talking about it, oh yeah, it was actually like this.
Yeah. These realizations that come up are so interesting.
For sure. Yeah. So that was fun. That was like a good way to like get a little loosened up and like kind of also just like feel out, the nature of what this podcast was going to become.
Yeah. And I think it was wise of us to go about it this way too, in retrospect, because we gave ourselves an opportunity to get technically comfortable with the gear and the recording and all that stuff. And
there was a lot of fumbles there.
And it's actually kind of funny that I'm segueing this way because the first episode that we did have a guest, it was Jen Aaron. And I'm going to reveal something funny about the episode that we did Jen Aaron. We actually recorded it 2 separate times. And I don't remember what the reason for that. Did we mess up the sound quality or something?
I think we were so fucking nervous.
We were nervous. We were so new. Oh,
we intentionally chose Jen to be our first guest because, well, I mean, number one, fans. We love Jen. Like, who doesn't love Jen?
Yeah.
But
and one of the reasons why we love Jen so much, aside from her
is-
work, is because of how warm of a person she is.
she's
And-
warm. She's so easy. She's like, she embraces, you know, like the errors and the fumbles, you know, and she just felt like a safe person for us to like fuck up with.
Yeah.
Which we did.
Yeah.
I think that first interview was just like, I don't know if there might have been a technical error that we were like, it's not perfect. And then we were like, well, we also didn't do a great job like interviewing her because we were nervous.
Oh, okay. So we took it as an
maybe we'll
opportunity for like a second shot at it.
And again, Jen was just like, yeah, absolutely, we can do that again, which is like why she was such an amazing first guest to choose.
Yeah.
So thank you, Jen, for being so like patient and understanding with us.
Yeah.
And we were so cute.
We were so cute. Giving it our best shot, not giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of like the takeaway from that experience. But then also the conversation that we had with her was
so good.
I think
it's actually one of the top listened to episodes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, this says a lot about Jen. I think like people really gravitate towards her.
Yeah.
Shall I say are attracted to her?
Absolutely. Yeah. The title of her episode is called "You Are What You Attract."
You are what you attract.
And it's all about basically being taking on the challenge of being the person who you want to be surrounded by.
Yeah, absolutely.
And whether that's in like a professional capacity or a personal capacity, doesn't really matter. It works the same. The laws of attraction work the same way.
It
everywhere.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we talked a bit in that episode about like abundance mindset versus like lack mindset, and making decisions from a place of abundance, whether you physically presently see proof of it or not.
Yeah.
Which is like really hard to do.
Oh my gosh, definitely. I know, like, I love that twist on the saying, see it to believe it. And in these cases, it's actually believe it to see it. It's backwards. So it's not something that I think is common knowledge. It's something that you kind of have to go looking for if you really want to.
For sure. Yeah. And like the you are what you attract, like that is a quote from Jen. That's like, if you want to attract abundance, you have to live it now.
Yeah.
So
you have to be
are
it.
abundance. You are abundance. Therefore, you attract abundance. Like, whoa, you know, like that's a tough one. And to sum it up as you are what you attract is like, I feel like that's a quote that should like live on forever from Jen. Like it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, definitely. And then we after we did execute a successful episode with Jen.
Only took 2 tries.
Only 2 tries. That's not bad. That's really not bad if you think about it. Considering it was the first time we'd ever done an interview like that. So really not bad. I'm very pleased with the outcome we got. And then going into the next episode with Carrie felt that much easier.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, with Carrie Fisher, the Let It Be Easy episode where we talk about her transitioning from one career to another and making it look easy, or just letting it be easy, not allowing any...
And I think actually since that conversation, she's now transitioned into another new career. Like I don't think she was doing her mindset coaching career yet at that point. I think she was going from florist to painter.
That's right. Yeah.
So now she's even transitioned again.
Yes.
And good on you, Carrie.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's really, it's really admirable that, and instead of staying comfortable in something that she knows, she listens to that voice that's inside that's like, actually, I want something else.
Yeah, you want something else, and you want to do it like this.
Yeah,
so do it. And let it be easy. I love that line so much. It might be one of my favorite lines.
Oh my gosh,
I use it all the time.
I know. Isn't it funny
it's
how
an easy line,
how like we can be in the habit of overcomplicating things for ourselves, and without realizing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so good. And then we had Kara Mcintosh, who you just saw Kara last night. You went to her show.
She had her first ever solo show, and it was so awesome to witness that and see the evolution of her. Like, she's just such an impressive person, and we kind of know a little bit about the behind the scenes of like the type of work she does, not only applying paint to canvases, but a lot of the thought work that she does to be able to like come up with these incredible collections of work and then have the confidence to go put them out there and sell them. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And Kara was one of our earlier clients, like I think number 4, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, we really got some amazing insight into her and her work, and it was, oh my gosh, so enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm never gonna forget, like, on the spot coming up with the term or the name for my fear. Like, I'm friends with my fear now, and she has a name, and it's Fearleisha. And like, everybody's like, that's so silly, but I also really love it. And it's like one of those things where it's like, you don't have to push it away or pretend that, like, you, or try to get rid of it altogether. It's like learning how to become friends with it and learn how it can be actually a positive thing in your life.
Which I think segues well into the next episode, because I believe that came up in Danielle's interview. Danielle Sweeney,
yes,
who is a calligraphy artist. I think we might have laughed the most in that episode.
She is really funny.
Hilarious. She's so fun. Yeah, and we talked about like recognizing, becoming friends with your fear and being like, okay, hey, Fearleisha, what's up? Now, like, go back in the closet over there. No, you're not coming in here today.
Yeah, sorry, you're not welcome today. Let's have lunch next week.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of Danielle's like persona for that, but it was like just like kind of a generic name, and I think we were like, feel bad for anyone named, I think it was like Janice or something. Oh yeah. I don't know, like anyone that's named Janice, sorry, no offense.
I can't remember the name now either, but that's really funny. Yeah, it's kind of like the whole Karen thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the fear version of it, not the I want to speak to the manager.
Yeah.
Different vibe.
Yeah, but still putting a name to. Yeah, but Danielle's was great. Trust the timing of your life is a really awesome quote of hers. And actually, Danielle, as a calligraphy artist, pumps out all of these amazing quotes into beautiful calligraphy pieces, which I think like a lot of like people in our network have something of hers, whether it's her gratitude over everything?
Gratitude changes everything.
Gratitude changes everything t-shirts.
Yeah. I have a bag.
You have a bag. Yeah, I've got the Know Your Worth.
It's beautiful.
On my office wall.
Yeah, they're such gorgeous reminders, not only like sentimentally, but visually, because her calligraphy is amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I have this, Danielle, if you're listening, just keep this in mind. I have this like vision of Danielle creating calligraphy pieces of like our business values.
Oh yeah.
So that we can like frame them.
Oh my gosh, we need to get the ball rolling on that.
Just like let me know when's a good time for that. Or...
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I think she would love that.
Yeah, I would love that too. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I loved hearing her talk about that, and like I know there were a lot of parallels actually between your episode and Trust the Winding Road to hers, Trust in the Timing of Your Life. I thought that was like interesting.
Oh
parallels.
Yeah. And then up next we had Michelle Miller.
Love her.
Yeah, Michelle Miller. She's a jewelry designer. And oh my gosh, there was one thing I loved that Michelle said in her episode where she feels like her work is like she's like journaling through her work. So it's like, which is why the title of her episode is Following Your Intuition, because she creates like these pieces of jewelry that are like really unconventional and created out of like unconventional materials. Yeah. And she described them, I think in that episode, as like being little mini sculptures almost, which I was like, that is so amazing. And she said she feels like she's journaling through creating these. So it's like, you can imagine being in that sort of flow where you're just like following your intuition and like producing something out of it. And so that was really, really cool to hear about.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of, like Michelle Miller, excuse me, and Danielle, this might be too late when the podcast episode comes out, but they would have great things to buy for Christmas if you have, you have people that you're shopping for who like jewelry or like stationery or sentimental calligraphy items.
Online shop.
Support local.
Yeah. And then so next up we had Rina Ruperellia, which we already talked about her episode, but hers is called Unconditional Self-Love, and
I cried in that episode.
You cried in that episode. I think that might be the only one that you've cried in.
I'm actually a little surprised by that, but yeah, she was talking about another genuine act of service that she did that I learned about on the podcast, and I was like, man, this woman just keeps like blowing my mind in terms of her selflessness and her like desire to care for people. I'm getting choked up again thinking about it, but she's like, she was telling us about her experience of being like bedside with people who are in, you know, I think in palliative care, from what I understand.
Oh yes.
If I remember correctly. Or it was a volunteer position to keep people company basically in the hospital. And
oh my gosh.
And I just thought that was really beautiful because those are not easy situations to be in, and it's so much harder when you don't have anyone around to talk to. So
yeah,
beautiful gesture on her part.
Absolutely. Next up we had Camille, who, oh my gosh, this might be my favorite episode actually. Camille's episode.
Camille is such a boss.
She's such a fucking boss.
I'm so glad our paths crossed with her because she has brought in so much value and meaning and personality. And
she's amazing. What an expert. Like, to give a little context, we've been working with her for a year now.
I think about a year, yeah.
As a business consultant. So we meet with her bi-weekly, and she helps us with kind of like business development type stuff. And I don't know if we'd be where we are at with certain things without her.
Don't think so.
She has so much experience, and she's so passionate about what she does, and so smart. And hilarious.
Yeah.
And God, I just love her so much.
Oh, I know. Like our founder membership is a bit like was largely inspired by her, and yeah, she just brings so much knowledge to the table that I think she's helping us collapse time essentially, because she's bringing in knowledge that you and I don't have. We would have to take the time to learn about it, and then that would take us away from our creative like responsibilities as photo and video creators. So
yeah, and I feel like the great thing about Camille is she's a really good example of like being in your zone of genius. Like she knows what she's good at, she knows what she loves doing, and she like stays within that realm and does like a kick-ass job of it. Like I was just thinking about I think that was the last call we had with her, and we had her reviewing like a contract when we were building.
Gosh, I loved this.
She caught herself being like nerding out super hard about like,
oh my God,
like we were talking about something in the contract, and she was like, oh yeah, I noticed that. Oh, it was so good. And then she was
she's like, force majeure, way to go.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and she just stopped herself and was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I was like, no.
The world needs people like you.
We need you.
Yes, we need you.
We need people like you.
Yes.
Yeah, and so she's awesome. Actually, I would love to play a soundbite from her episode.
Absolutely.
We talked a lot about money mindset and that sort of stuff in her episode, and I feel like if you're building a new business, you're a business owner, you have to listen to this episode. It's called Guided by Vision.
Yes.
Let's check it out.
Here's a sample of how boss she is.
I want people to be empowered or to feel empowered to make decisions based on where they want to be in their career, in their business, not from where they're at. Because if you continue to make decisions from where you are in your business, I'm sorry to tell you, you're either going to stay the same or just die out.
Yeah. Oh my God, it makes so much sense.
Right?
Like how can you evolve if you're making decisions based on where you are right now?
Yeah. And that's why that vision piece is so important. If you can't see beyond where you're at, then that's the first problem. You got to address that issue. Right?
Huge problem.
And from there, I know people use money as a crutch, and as someone who's worked in, sales and just business for so long, I don't see it as an excuse. I really don't. There are ways for you, like, don't quit your job if you can't afford to do it, or like if you are in the business and you need to grow, like you got to do those calculations. You got to do the math, or get your numbers person to do the math for you.
Oh my gosh. Damn. She just like tells it like it is.
Yes.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
That line, you making decisions from where you want to be, not where you are now, is like golden.
It's absolutely golden. It's so in alignment with a lot of the stuff that we learn in the mindset coaching community that we take part in as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems so obvious when you know it, but then without knowing it, it's like, where would you ever learn that if you weren't taught that?
Yeah.
How would you come to that?
Yeah.
a conscious realization.
Yeah. And again, it's kind of similar to like the abundance mindset thinking. Like it can be really hard to make decisions from that place.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Really,
The battle of fear versus faith when it comes to like that specifically is super real.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man. Love her.
Yes. And then next up we had Sarah Levine, who we already shared a bit about, living your purpose. Sarah was like so vulnerable in that episode. She shared a lot about like her past and her own obstacles, and it's just like I think a lot of stuff came up in that conversation that like doesn't usually get talked about.
Yeah, some of it was kind of taboo, like
a bit taboo, or a bit like, you know, people might feel like shame around certain parts of their past or something, you know.
Absolutely.
And it can feel really scary to share that out of fear of judgment or not being as perfect as you want to appear now or whatever. But when people talk about the types of things Sarah talked about in that episode, it creates space and security for everyone else that's experienced those things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's so fucking important.
Yes. Oh my gosh. She has such a strong sense of self, and she has a strong understanding of the fact that the more she is herself, the more she's going to attract the people in her life that are really meant to be there, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. And that brings us to our first episode ever that we recorded in... Was that the first episode we recorded in person?
It was the first ever episode recorded in person.
Wait, did we do it with Jen in person?
No,
we didn't.
We hadn't recorded any episodes in person with our guests before this one because of, you know, COVID restrictions and stuff, which really created a lot of technical challenges and sound quality challenges and that sort of thing, doing it remotely.
Yeah.
But recording this one in person was amazing, and we recorded it like in Montreal,
in her home. It was so
our
personal.
First big trip together for a client, and like first trip since like COVID.
Honestly, it was the first flight I took in a long time.
I know. Yeah. So all of that experience was amazing. Holly is, she's a Montreal-based artist, painter. And she invited us out there to do a shoot with her, and we like stayed in her home and like for a weekend or for a few days, and it was so wonderful. And we recorded this episode with her.
She's actually such a good example of somebody who makes the decision. Who seems to make the decision from the place that she wants to be, versus where she's at now, and the stories that she shared with us when we spent those few days together, there was this running theme of like just trusting in the universe and the universe rewarding that trust.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I feel like she just does that naturally.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like just the way she operates.
That's her baseline. It's like MO. So inspiring, and it's very comforting to be around, I find, because that's something I aspire to, and I love having people like role models in my life, like not just people on TV, you know, not just figures, but like real people that I'm first degree connected to, that are exhibiting that type of courage and passion for their lives and what they're doing, and just trusting.
Oh my gosh, I know, really trusting. Like I'm absolutely obsessed with the story, her story of when she was like in her early 20s and she dropped out of school or whatever. She was, whatever wasn't serving her at the time that she was trying to kind of force but wasn't working, and just like packed up like her stuff and bought a motorcycle and like road tripped across the continent on a motorcycle by herself. I don't know like what era this was in, but she was in her early 20s. She was really young, and she said like there was no other women on motorcycles at the time. You know, she's just like, I'm just picturing her in her blonde hair, like she's just like wearing a bikini top, and just like cruising down the road with her paint in the back.
Yeah, she really set the scene for us. You could totally visualize it.
And she fucking did that. Like that is so badass, and such a great example of like how she operates.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what an awesome lady.
Yeah, and then last but not least.
Yeah, so we saved...
Speaking of role models.
We saved Catherine Farquharson it's the 13th episode. I think in this recording I kept calling it the 10th episode, but what I meant was
the
10th guest
interview. Yeah.
So 13th episode, 10th guest, and we saved, I don't know what it is about the number 10, but
nice and clean.
Nice and clean, even double digits.
Yeah.
We saved the 10th guest to be Catherine, and the reason for that being she came up in like maybe like 80% of the conversation.
Honestly, she really did. She's
Like
a
her name
connector,
came
actually.
up.
Like, there's a few really interesting things to mention about Catherine. First of all, she's our client, but she's also our mindset coach, and she is the mindset coach of many of our clients as well. So you might have recognized or noticed that when we do have these conversations, that mindset comes up a lot.
Comes up every time.
Every time. It's a bit of an unofficial intersection for us.
Yes.
And
it is.
And it's all content or material that we've learned that's been pivotal in all of our journeys. And it's actually so fun to come together and talk about not necessarily like the specific actions that you did to get to where you're at, but like the ways that you thought, or the things that you had to, the beliefs that you had to get rid of, the ones that you had to adopt, the ones like just all these like things that go on inside of our heads that nobody else sees, that we can have conversations about and understand each other and use it to inspire each other and grow. And it's just really remarkable. And the fact that Catherine's an incredible teacher of this material to all these women, we just,
most of them.
We just had to have her on our podcast. And I loved hearing, I loved going into the conversation of beliefs again, because I know,
like what you believe is true, as the title is so in line. Like she has a Facebook group, a Facebook community called Believe It to See It, which is a play on see it to believe it. Yeah. And so by that meaning, similar to what were the other ones? Similar to the abundance mindset, similar to Camille saying you have to think about where you want to be, make decisions from where you want to be, believing something to be true before it is physically present. Yeah,
this brings me to that one quote that I might have said before on an episode, but it's a lack of evidence isn't evidence of lack. Oh. So
that sums it up.
You just because you haven't had it in your past doesn't mean you can't have whatever it is you're thinking of or desiring in your future. And beliefs come into this in such a strong way because, as the title of the episode explains, what you believe is true. So you got to get into the practice of believing something that's going to serve you versus believing everything you thought you knew about it from before, everything you thought you learned about it from before. Yeah. So that was a really powerful one. I like to listen to that one.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. We had that funny moment where Catherine's like, if you're worried about or you're wondering where they've gone, there's just a whole lot of silent nodding going on. There's a lot of things where we got to let that sink in.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Just dropping those bombs that just make you think.
Yeah, absolutely. Mind bombs.
Yeah. So, which leads us to right now.
Today.
So this will be the 14th episode. And we have decided to kind of wrap that up and call it season 1, even though, going into it, I don't think we had decided we were going to do seasons. We didn't know how many episodes we were going to do or how often. We kind of just went with it. But this feels, we're at the end of 2021. Yeah. And we learned a lot. So it feels like a really natural, organic place to just kind of wrap this up as an experience and
start fresh with season 2 with everything that we've learned and bring in some new ideas, maybe even bring in some new people. Yep. Well, definitely new people to interview, but I think we're also talking about bringing in people to help us with the technical side of things so we can improve the quality of it, improve the consistency of the output for you. And we're really just looking for ways to improve it and make it better all the time, just like everything else that we do.
Yeah, exactly. Always looking to grow.
Yeah.
So something that started
Yeah.
like a really just genuine place is like evolved, and now we're ready to take it to the next level.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what that looks like yet. We don't know what that looks like yet, but
We've got some ideas, but we also are going to be engaging you more on our socials to help get inspiration for what you want to listen to and hear
Yeah.
about. And
yeah, we want to know like what stood out to you if you've listened to the past episodes. What stood out to you as being like really great, really useful? Because I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to bring value to our listeners. We want to bring value to our guests. And so what better way to do that than like
ask
to get
them directly
feedback? Yeah.
what they want.
What do you want? What do you want? So
within the realm of what we offer, what do you want?
yeah. So in whatever
happy to
format you're
deliver.
listening to this right now, feel free to send us some feedback or input or questions or whatever you want. I don't know.
Yeah. Or just say hi.
Just say
That's
hi.
fine.
Engage with us.
Yeah.
Engage. So that's it.
That's it for season 1.
Season 1, yeah.
That's a wrap.
a
Wow.
wrap.
Wow. I'm extremely
How do you
proud.
feel?
Extremely proud.
Proud?
Extremely proud and extremely open-minded and excited for what's to come.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you
yes.
feel?
I feel all of those things as well. I feel proud of our progression.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, this
me
felt
too.
really easy.
Yeah,
A lot
it did.
easier than the first.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and
episodes.
thank goodness no more aluminum tabletops.
Yeah, even that has improved.
Little differences make a big difference.
Yeah. Well, cheers, Shannon.
Cheers.
Anna.
Bye.
Thanks,
Business
everyone.
spouse.
Yeah.
We'll catch you in season 2.